Hello guys, welcome back. Now today we're going to be talking about goalie interference. Now this is the first time I think I've ever talked about it in just a dedicated video. And I've been putting this off for a while because one, I hate that I have to talk about this. NHL's made itself such a big deal about it. They put this problem upon themselves, and now they made some changes to it, so I'm going to talk about it now. It's probably been long overdue, but let's get into it. Now we're going to start with the changes made to the goalie interference system. Beginning tomorrow, all coaches' challenges will be made in the Situation Room in Toronto instead of on-ice officials, in that press box or whatever they call it, making the review announcements. And, I think this is a big improvement. It might take a little bit longer, but it could go longer, it could go shorter, who knows really, but it could definitely go either way. But I think that it will improve just the overall goalie interference, just spectacle, and it'll be implemented, I think, tomorrow, so it's going to be fairly recent that this is going to start happening. The coaches, I don't think they're going to have to get their those headsets on, look at the little tiny iPhone there, and try and decide what the goalie interference call is. They're not going to have the situation caller in Toronto that has all the camera angles and everything on it have to decide the call, and I think that's a big improvement that will actually affect things. And this movement was recommended by a lot of GMs and a lot of coaches, of course. A lot of coaches have gone public with it, Mike Babcock especially, saying that it was just a terrible thing about it. He doesn't even know. A lot of coaches don't even know the calls on the ice. They didn't even know the rules. And that's a big thing when your NHL coaches don't even know what's going on. That's a huge problem. And the NHL trying to fix that is going to be a great move. And the original intent was to implement this starting into the playoffs, and of course that didn't end up happening. They're going to use these last 2 weeks as kind of a test to see how this is going to work out and see if they'll, keep this going into the playoffs. They probably will, no matter what, but this is pretty much just a test period for them. You would like to see them test it early in the season, but, it's better than nothing. And hopefully with these changes, it's fixed, but of course we never know until it actually happens, and we never know until there's another controversy, right? But overall, it was probably its worst in probably December, January. That was probably the most calls that were going the wrong way, and really it's been a problem throughout the whole season. The NHL hasn't really fixed it until now. We don't even know if it's fixed still, and it's been a huge problem throughout the whole year. We still don't know if it's going to get fixed, and it hasn't really gotten fixed at all throughout the season. There were some changes made. Coaches were, or officials were being told, I think that also break to call less goals or whatever, something like that. But there wasn't too many changes really made to the just system in general, and I'm hoping that this change really does help that. And the team that seemed to get the worst of this was the Leafs. It was weird because the goalie interference calls were going up to Toronto, seeing what the call was made, but they're right there with Toronto. It was just a coincidence, but really Toronto has gotten quite their fair share of controversial calls. I could count like 3 or 4 of them throughout the year, and that's a lot for a team, one team in particular. And the Leafs, I've seen a few really, really bad calls, even with the goalie interference rules and the review, just some really wacky ones. And I've always had 2 major complaints about just goalie interference in general. One is that, I've already mentioned this earlier, but coaches really don't know what's going on. Nobody really knows what the rules are. And that was a big thing. Transparency, is not consistent at all. That's probably the biggest issue throughout the whole season, is just consistency, and it's really just not been there. And my second one is that really these reviews, just in general, maybe offside and maybe goal interference, but these reviews just take way too long. Some of them take 5 minutes. Some of them are way too long, and it bugs me that the game is basically being delayed. The officials should give themselves a delay of game penalty for that. There's just way too many instances where it's a pretty obvious call, but it goes for like 5 minutes, and we still don't know what the call is. It keeps going on forever. That's probably my biggest pet peeve with NHL right now, is that the reviews just take as long as they physically can. But the good thing is that my team, Dallas Stars, even though they're not going to make the playoffs, haven't gotten really burned by goal interference. They got burned a couple of times by offsides, but not by goal interference. And it's really weird because they're one of the few teams that I have seen really nothing go out of goal interference. It's usually the call stands for really most goal interference reviews. There hasn't really been that too much of them. But all I want is that the goalie interference, just overall, to be resolved by the playoffs. I don't want another Oilers situation where they have some key crucial goals go against their way on bad goal interference calls that shouldn't have gone against them. I just want a playoffs that is free from all of this BS, and free from stuff like this. I want the goalie interference to be resolved by then, and hopefully these 2-week period can really help with that. It seems like what they're doing, what they're changing with this review will really help that. I'm really hoping that it does, because let's say it doesn't, that's more chaos going into the playoffs, which we really don't need. And it's just been a carousel of emotions throughout the whole season. What's going to go on with this? And I'm just hoping that these rules implemented will actually help the thing instead of just making it worse. And I do believe that it will help. I don't know how much it'll help, but I do believe that it will make it at least a little bit better. And I'm hoping that this all gets resolved somehow. I mean, it's been a wacky ride. But that's going to, guys. Like, subscribe, and not ring that bell. And tell me down below what's your thoughts of just goalie interference in general this season, and what you think about the changes made. And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.